All right, we will start with Mark Hastings introducing himself.
Thank you very much. My name is Mark Hastings, and I'm running for place for District 3 of the Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. I am a lifelong resident of Central Texas. I grew up in South Austin and studied engineering and computer science at the University of Texas. My brother and I owned and operated a small business called Hastings Communication Services, started by my mother in 1948. And I've been managing that company for over 37 years, and I've served on many business and civic boards. My wife and I built our home on Muddy Brown Road almost 13 years ago. I'm running for this position because I'm concerned about the future availability of adequate water and what a lack of water might do to our property values, to all of our property values. If the aquifer is depleted, even those families in District 3 who live in subdivisions served by surface water from Lake Travis will be adversely affected when their property values plummet if the wells of nearby businesses and homes go dry. That will bring down the property values of everyone in the area. At a recent public meeting, I heard my opponent say that he is in favor of issuing perpetual permits for large, non-resident wells that he calls forever permits that never expire and never have to be renewed. That would take away all oversight to keep them from wasting water forever. Additionally, the current board has not conducted their annual financial audits in a timely manner, so not only are the finances of the district not in order, there is a lack of transparency. As a board member for District 3, I will make sure that the district gets better at informing the public and business community of the importance of conserving the water. I will encourage builders and developers to design their structures and landscaping to use less water and work with businesses to provide assistance in reducing water use. For example, they can take a lesson from the new Trudy's restaurant on 290 that captures rainwater and air conditioning condensate for the low water use using landscaping and the use of high-efficiency dishwashing equipment. It just makes good business sense. I will see that there's transparency and openness in the operation of the district. There will be no backroom deals, and I will see that the financial statements of the district are available on the website for all to see. Thank you for your attention, and I'll appreciate your vote.
All right, now, Robbie Zamora will introduce herself.
Thank y'all for staying so late. I know we're all tired. My name is Robbie Zamora, and I am your candidate for Director, District 1, Hastings Groundwater Conservation District. I am running for this office because I have lived in Dripping Springs for 7 years, and over the last 4 years I have watched many water trucks go up and down my street, taking water to the dry wells of my neighbors. The current board has approved a 30-foot drawdown of the aquifer, which will mean that even more of our wells will go dry, probably mine included. Also on my property I have a spring-fed pond and wet weather creeks that have had no water in them in 4 years. And that's due to the drought, of course, but also the aquifer levels, which feed the springs and the ponds. I would really appreciate your vote, and thank you.
And now, Jeff Vasgaard will introduce himself. Vasgaard.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Jeff Vasgaard. I'm the only candidate for District 5 here tonight. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the history of the Wimberley Valley. So our local economy depends on groundwater, an adequate supply of groundwater. We look back to last year, we got a glimpse of what could possibly be the future of Cypress Creek and Wimberley Valley. Okay? The springs of Wimberley create Cypress Creek and also contribute to the Blanco River. And it is this beautiful setting that lures people here, not only the reason we came here, but also people to come visit, shop in our shops, visit our businesses, stay in our hotels and lodging facilities. So this is a very important part of our economy. In addition to that, if we lose the continued flow of these springs, we not only lose those aesthetic quality and values, but our local businesses will decline along with our individual property values. The need to manage and conserve groundwater has been in existence for a long time in Texas. In fact, the need is recognized all the way back to the Texas Constitution, all the way back to 1970. I mean, the approach we use in Texas is through the use of local groundwater conservation districts. These districts are responsible for, among many things, to make sure that there's a balanced water use for both existing users and new users. And this is the really tough nut for us to crack coming forward as we talk about this growth that's coming forward. Okay, how do we manage that? How do we do that? A conservative, carefully managed DFC, desired future condition, is currently the most effective way to do that. And in order to do that, we need a board with strong leadership, with directors who can make tough choices and make fair decisions. And what I have to offer that is a long history of leadership, both in business, military, and local nonprofit organizations, and a long history of my family here in Wimberley Valley, all the way back 20 years ago. So I look forward to talking to you. I'd like to hear all of your concerns and questions, and thank you very much for the chance to talk to you tonight. Thanks.
And now Mark, he will introduce himself.
I'm Mark Key. I'm the current representative of District 3. I was going to forego my opening comments so we could get to the questions, but Mr. Hastings said a few things that I think need to be responded to. Yes, it's true, we are 2 years behind our audit. The problem was when we took over, we were 3 years behind the audit. And the audits cost about $2,100 a pop. And since the Wimberley Valley Watershed Association sued us, we've got about $30,000 out. So, considering we only have a budget of about $160,000, $170,000 a year, we've got to manage our money properly. Yes, I absolutely support forever permits. What I was talking about was the Goldenwood West Goldenwood West Water Supply Corp, where you've got a mature subdivision. It's totally built out. They have a permit for 60 acre-feet a year. They use anywhere from 52 to 50 acre-feet a year, 52 to 58 acre-feet per year of water. Why would you make these people come back every year? They're not going to go away. They're going to be there every year, year in, year out. When I was elected, the president of the Goldenwood West Water Board came to me and said, hey, are you not going to cut our permit? The previous president, if we didn't use our permit, all of it, every year, he said, I'm going to cut it back. That was ridiculous. So yes, I would absolutely support forever permits for mature subdivisions that aren't growing anymore.
Mr. Key, what do you consider the most important duty of the district?
You know, the most important duty of the district is to be sure that there was a fair and equitable amount of water distributed. We don't control the water under the ground. Just because we give someone a permit for 10 acre-feet, there's no telling how much water is underground. We try to balance it. When I got elected, they weren't giving water out. They were saying, we run into these, so business owners could not get a permit for land that they own to open up a business. So I think that we need to protect the property. These people right here, these people tell you a lot about protecting property rights. They don't care about protecting property rights. They're very concerned about one small area and don't really give a rip about the rest of the county. I represent District 3. My friend Jim Skip represents District 1. We've got just as much say as people in Wimberley Valley. We're all in this equally. So I'm trying to be sure that everybody gets their fair share. Thank you.
Mr. Vasgaard, what do you consider the most important duty of the district?
I think the most important duty of the district is to follow the mission statement: conserve, preserve, protect, and prevent waste of groundwater. And I think we have lots of opportunities to improve on that.
Mr. Hastings, what do you consider the most important duty of the district?
I believe the most important duty of the district is to make sure that there is available groundwater, available water sources for anybody who needs that water, both now and in the future, to ensure that as best as it can be done. Sure, we know that there are limited, the aquifer is limited. And as people keep coming to the area, because we do want people to come to the area, we do want this area to be a viable economically, but there are some limits to what we can do. So we have to be very careful and be efficient in how the groundwater district does its deliberations and make sure that the permits that it issues are based on science, or based on the actual facts of what's available, and also on what the actual beneficial use is of the various people that may be requesting those permits.
Ms. Zamora.
What do you consider the most important duty of the district?
Well, the other candidates have touched on some of it, but I think that the most important responsibility is to be water conscious and water responsible. If we continue to draw down the aquifer and have everyone's wells go dry, then we're not going to have the water that we need. Those of us who are on well water now, who live in rural areas, which I represent District 1, which is primarily a rural area, which is north of Creek Road and west of Highway 12, all the way to the county line, both Travis and Blanco County lines. The majority of those people are on well water, and we need to manage the water with a water budget, which I don't believe the district has in place, so that it is fair and equitable to everyone, including those of us on well water. Thank you.
Ms. Zamora, do you support a water policy that would allow the Trinity aquifer to be drained by 30 feet? And explain your position.
Well, again, draining the aquifer down an additional 30 feet will make many of the wells, especially in western Hayes County, go dry, and no, I'm not in support of that. I believe that we need to look at all the factors involved before we decide how much water can be drawn down. A water budget needs to be in place. We need to look at the current conditions, drought, climate, where we are, and again, I do not agree with drawing down the aquifer 30 feet. Thank you.
Mr. Hastings, do you support a water policy that would allow the Trinity aquifer to be drained by 30 feet?
I do not agree with the 30-foot level. We do need to understand that because of the limitations of the aquifer, there will be a deficit in the amount of water that's available. We try to reduce that as much as possible. I do not think that a 30-foot drawdown is entirely necessary for our area. The 30-foot drawdown refers to what's called the GMA 9, which is the 9 counties around Hayes County, which includes Curry County, Comal County, Bexar County, Medina County, and other counties. But those counties also have different geologies that deals with their particular geology. Although it's all the aquifer of the Trinity aquifer, the geology is different. I don't think that this area needs to have a drawdown of 30 feet, and I think that we can live with something less than that.
Mr. Key, do you support a water policy that would allow the Trinity aquifer to be drained by 30 feet?
Yes, I do. I voted for it, as a matter of fact. So did 9 other counties in the area. So did the Texas Water Development Board. Pretty much everybody except a small group of folks down here. You know, we talk a lot about the 30 foot. It's a misnomer. It's actually 19 feet across all of Hayes County. And guess what? It's 10 feet here in Wimberley. That's according to the Wimberley Valley Watershed's petition to the desired future condition at the Texas Water Development Board. Also, if you see Jack Collins sitting over there, you'll see him, David Baker, and a guy named David Glenn that have predicted water level decline. And they've got, right here, 50 to 100 foot drawdown. So my question is, are they lying then or are they lying now? You know, I get sick of this. The 30 foot drawdown is over 50 years. It's a little over 1% growth per year. When I first started coming to these meetings, 18 months before I ever ran, all they talked about was maintaining 90% spring flow, 90% spring flow in the drought record. Well, a 30-foot drawdown maintains 9%, only drops spring flow 9%. So we're maintaining 91% of the spring base flow. But yet no one mentions it because you can't go out and solicit donations if everything's going well. Thank you.
Mr. Vasgaard, do you support a water policy that would allow the Trinity aquifer to be drained by 30 feet?
As I mentioned before, I think we need a very conservative approach to our DFCs and managing the DFCs. I do not believe that 30 feet is sustainable. I think last summer certainly provided an example of that, where we were nowhere near on this path of the 30-foot drawdown. We had Cypress Creek stop flowing. We saw significant reductions in water flow in all the creeks and streams in this area. We do have to balance recharge and demand. This is, we talk about water budget, we talk about a lot of different things, but it's really pretty simple. So when you don't have a lot of recharge, where you have more than normal demand, the aquifer is going to decline. If you look at the monitoring wells, particularly Mount Baldy, we see a steady decline, averaging a little over a foot a year over the last 6 years. So we're not going to get to 2050 right, just by looking at that math. So I think the current model that the Groundwater District Board is using now is not a complete route. And we've seen in the Texas Water Development Report that by 2060, over half the Texas population will be short, will only have 45% as much water as they need at times of drought. I do not believe the current plans and current models take account of any of that. We can sit there and say, well, we'll fix that when we get there, but the severity of this catastrophe is significant enough that it's going to be very, very difficult to recover. When you go back to the aquifer levels, we saw historic lows in the wells last summer, and even with above normal rainfall this year, we still have not fully recovered. I do not believe those situations are accounted for in the drought management plan currently.
Mr. Vasgaard, do you support giving fines to water companies that have excess water waste due to leaky pipes? Aqua Texas, for example.
I believe in holding all the water companies accountable to the same measures. And I had a meeting with a couple different water companies, and the common thread that comes up is we just want to be treated fairly, be treated the same. So if they're investing resources into their water mains and stopping leaks in their pipes, then I think we should expect every water supply company to do that. I certainly don't want to target anyone for a water company, but I think the standard should be the same for everybody. Texas Water Development Board has guidelines. If you have more than 15% water loss, you need to fix that within a couple of years. And the current situation, or the situation in Aqua Texas, just seems like, to me, drug on for a long time. And we wasted a tremendous amount of water during that period.
Mr. Key, do you support giving fines to water companies that have excess water waste due to leaky pipes?
Not only do I support it, I've actually done it. I'm the only one that's actually ever fined anybody. But, instead of, as a conservative, I don't believe in swinging a big hammer. We talk to people, they explain they had a leak. The fine would have actually been about $10,000. It was not the Texas system, but it was actually over in the dripping area. And so, we understand they're working on it, trying to fix it. So instead of the $10,000, we knocked it down to $2,500. Worked with them, they paid it, which was a market change from previously when they would fine the total amount. And you ended up in court, and everybody spent $20,000, and there'd be no fine issued or anything. So yes, I do support bringing people to compliance. More importantly, instead of fine, I would rather see them fix their pipes. And the funny thing was, when myself and Mr. Skip got elected to the board, all of a sudden we found Aqua Texas was willing to go and not need some complicated agreement. Said, what, we trust you guys, we're going to come in, we'll start fixing our pipes. And I'm pretty sure they made some significant improvements on that.
Ms. Zamora, do you support giving fines to water companies that have excess water waste?
I think it beat this horse to death, but I believe that everybody needs to come into compliance, and everybody needs to be treated fairly. If that means we penalize people, then that's what we need to do. But whatever it takes to make them come into compliance, and come into compliance in a short period of time. You give them, if they're going to say they're going to fix their pipes, you give them a limited time to do so. If they don't do it, then you fine them. You need to, stay on a hard line if they're not going to do what they say they're going to do. Thank you.
Mr. Hastings, do you support giving fines to water companies that have excess water waste?
Well, I do believe that all companies, people who are under the jurisdiction of the Groundwater Conservation District should be treated fairly, should be treated equitably. If there is a particular case where a water service company is in violation of those rules, violation of the rules of the Groundwater Conservation District, perhaps violation of the TCQ rules, then they should be brought to account. Now, I do believe also that if a company is making good faith efforts to make repairs, to make good, and to eliminate that waste, because really 40% waste, that's an awful lot. But they should be, if a company is making progress, if the trend is to make progress to reduce that waste, I think that there should be some amount of leniency to not have to carry that big stick, but to be able to make sure that that waste is taken care of. That's the bottom line, is we want to make sure that that waste is gone. Let's make sure that the waste is gone in a way that everybody can be, that is equitable and that everybody has to think is fair.
Mr. Hastings, do you think people within a property owners association should be able to drill private water wells?
I would say that someone who is a property owner that has land in this area, if they follow all the rules that they are able to, that are within the county, within the groundwater district, that follow the laws of the state, then I don't see any reason why they couldn't be able to do that, as long as they're following the rules that are currently out there and the laws that apply to them. I think as a groundwater district, we should probably look at it closely and make sure that it doesn't impinge on anybody else's rights to water. But that's kind of what the reason that they established groundwater districts in the first place.
Ms. Zamora, do you think people within a property owners association should be able to drill private water wells?
Private water wells for personal residential use, I believe, are permitted anyway, and as long as all the rules are followed, I don't see any reason why they couldn't. Exempt wells are those for residential purposes and agricultural purposes, so I don't see any reason why they couldn't.
Mr. Vasgaard, do you think people within a property owners association should be able to drill their own wells?
Well, it certainly depends on the restrictions of the property organizations. I know a lot of the water supply companies have restrictions on drilling water wells within their CNMs. But the answer to the question is if they qualify for the exempt well classification of the groundwater district, then yes, they should be able to under current law.
Okay, that's that. Mr. King?
Yes.
I love it. Okay. Mr. Key, should the directors on the Conservation District Board be knowledgeable in the technical aspects of the Trinity Aquifer?
Ma'am, there's only probably 5 people in the county knowledgeable in the aspect of the Trinity Aquifer. If you ask Al Brown, he could not tell you. Al Brown is a volunteer of the district, great man, done a lot of free work for the district. We love Al to death. He will tell you, I cannot tell you how much water is beneath the ground. Like I said, I started this about 18 months, coming to meetings and learning, and it was a very hard process. I was reading managed available groundwater studies, Texas Water Development Board. We do the best, but no, there's no requirement. I mean, anyone can run this board.
Mr. Vasgaard?
With this bigger groundwater district where it has very limited resources, I think it certainly ought to help. That bigger groundwater district was founded by people like Jack Holland and a lot of the people in this room, and they wouldn't have been able to have done it if they did not have a good understanding of groundwater issues. I do take a little bit of exception to what Mark said about Al Brown. We just went to a class on Aquifer 101 with Al Brown, and his comment was, we have a better understanding of the Trinity Aquifer in western Hays County than probably any other groundwater district. And that's strictly been through the generous donation of volunteers, geologists and hydrogeologists that take the time to do the studies, go out and volunteer their time on core samples on wells and this wonderful atlas that they produced. And but I don't know how much longer you can depend on that. That's the real question. So I think it's definitely beneficial if you have a director that understands the issues. I think it's highly beneficial to the operation of the groundwater district. You know, why should we have to reinvent the wheel every time a new person comes on the board? I think there's a lot the groundwater conservation district can do, like this class that Al sponsored. where those who want to attend can come attend. And I think in one day we learned a tremendous amount about the issues, groundwater issues in the Trinity Aquifer.
Mr. Hastings, should the directors on the Water District Board be knowledgeable on the technical aspects of the Trinity Aquifer?
Well, I think, just like in my business, is that I don't know everything about how all the technology works in some cases, because I have to hire experts to do that. I think that the groundwater district also has to depend on experts to come up with the information, the technical information of how aquifers work and where the water can come from. But I do think that a director should be willing to learn, should be willing to listen, should be willing to understand, to be willing to look at the reports that come out and really look at them carefully and try to understand as best they can and get advice from the experts on exactly what that means so they can make competent and decisions that are within the rules and that are also beneficial for the groundwater district.
Ms. Zamora.
Well, currently, I don't believe there is any requirement for a board director to know the technical aspects, but I do believe that a board director should be able to acknowledge that they do not know everything and to accept recommendations from those volunteers who do have the expertise and from their staff who works daily in the district to take those recommendations into account when making decisions. Thank you.
Okay, this is a compound question. Ms. Zamora, how should the groundwater district be funded, and what is the approximate size of a reasonable budget?
That is a compound question. Currently, the groundwater district is funded through Hayes County, which is through our tax dollars. It is not given the authority to tax at all. The district's creation documents do not allow for funding through taxation. And in the past, it's been funded through Hayes County, but through some franchise fees, is my understanding, through the LCRA. I believe that the current budget of the groundwater district, and I think it's like $125,000 annually, is not enough. They have 2 staff members, and we get all kinds of added expertise from volunteers, and as Jeff said, at some point, those volunteers are not going to be around to give us their expertise anymore. So I believe it's going to need to be increased, but without being in the meat of it, I do not know how much. Thank you.
Mr. Hastings, how should the groundwater district be funded, and what is the approximate size for a reasonable budget?
Well, I would say that the current operation of the groundwater conservation district is pretty bare bones. We have to depend on the good graces of some volunteers. As was mentioned, Al Brown is doing it on a volunteer basis. We also have to depend on some other groundwater districts to come and help us out, to do some of the logging that needs to be done, some of the technical work that needs to be done. And so we're having to basically ask for help in those cases. So I do agree that the groundwater district should be greater funded. How it should be funded is going to be up to the voters, so not only the voters but also the legislature, because the legislature has said that this groundwater district cannot levy taxes, can't even call an election to levy taxes. So that question is going to have to come before the legislature, and if something happens there, then that will have to come before the voters of this district.
Mr. Key, how should the district be funded, and what's the reasonable size of budget?
Well, I'm the only one person going to say it. I will not support a tax. No way, no how. It's true. we cannot tax now, but ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, what's the difference between murder and attempted murder? Incompetence. You attempt to murder somebody, you tried to kill them, you just weren't good enough to do it. In 2009, the district submitted 11 different bills to Patrick Rose, all of them requested taxing. The first 10 were up to the 50 cents per 100, the maximum valuation. Only the last one they realized, hey, they're knocking it back, and they knocked it down to a nickel per 100. I will not support a tax, not now, not ever. If the county decides our funding come with May, we'll be okay. And I think the proper budget for the groundwater district is $164,860, because that's the one we're going to approve next week. Thank you.
Mr. Vasgaard?
Yeah, so everybody's very much beat this thing to death. But the bottom line, it is what it is. We currently are funded by, the groundwater district is funded by county taxes. It has no authority to levy taxes. The only way that's going to change is by rule, by provisions of state legislature. So, now there's certainly been a lot of discussion about whether it's right or not. Now back to the budget. If you were to go decide a budget, one of the local business guys was talking to me about this, and he said, well, before you even talk about taxes and budget and everything, what is it you're going to do? What is the plan? And that's what ought to drive in his case, your business philosophy and your business plan. And I think the groundwater district should be the same. What is it we're going to do? And then we need to, if we decide that we don't have enough resources to do that, then it's up to us to work with the local county commissioners court and legislature if we have that opportunity to try to make a difference. So, thanks.
That we do not have time for another round of questions. I'm so sorry. And I apologize to any of you who had questions here that you really wanted to have answered. And my suggestion to you is to find your candidates and ask them. All right? And thank you so much for